Woo! Hello. Welcome to In 12D. And this week we are in season 2, episode 8 already. And this evening and this morning, wherever you are, it's going to be a live chat between myself and my co-host Ramzi, who's do you want to say hi there, Ramzi, where you are?
Hello, everyone. I'm in sunny South America.
Nice.
To the background.
And I'm in sunny Ireland, which is kind of rare for this time of year. So it's particularly sunny around both of us today. Today's episode is, the title of the episode is Involution to Evolution. And like the kind of decoding of ourselves, of our why, like what gets us on these paths. And as the path unfolds, how we're piece the pieces together. It's like a puzzle, and it's like you get little bits and pieces here and there. So we're going to share a lot about our own personal journeys in this episode. So do stay tuned in. And there's also going to be a word shared during the program at some stage, which will be a coupon code word for a program that we have coming up in a couple of weeks. So Ramzi, do you want to just share the name of the program that we're planning on the In 12D program?
Yes. So in 2 weeks' time, we're planning an hour and a half. I just forgot how many the time that we're having it. Okay, my apologies. I was off track. So we have an hour and a half session in 2 weeks' time, which is tea with the ancestors. Suzi, myself, and Kathy were planning it to happen around noon time on Friday the 25th. Friday the 25th at noon Eastern Standard. That will be 5 p.m. UK time, UK Ireland time. And noon, so -3, so it's around 9 a.m. I'm not too good with this, with all these time zones. 9 Pacific.
9 a.m. Pacific, yeah.
9 a.m. Pacific. So we look forward for you to joining us. We're gonna have actually the way we set it up is to have a type of a tea ceremony with our ancestors. So what we invite people who are going to be joining us, and please do bring yourself a tea bag. You can steep your tea while we're doing it. Have a picture of the ancestor, either on your phone, a physical picture with you that you put it on the side, the way you want it. There's no specific way of showing it, but sit there, and in a group we'll sit down and have an amazing hour and a half session. So we're looking forward to having everybody with us. And of course, during the call, Suzi and we have a discount code for you. So stay with us and what do you call it? And get the discount before you register. This is the link to the event. And also, what I was going to say is that we'll put this in the chat, because as it scrolls, it's not easy to type it in. So we'll have it in the chat. You can link to it.
Great. So it'll be easy. It's definitely easier than how it sounded there. It's just a case of going on the website and just going to the events and clicking it. And it's really straightforward to register. But if you do want the discount, listen, like, and subscribe to this episode, because we really want to build up our likes. We really want to build up our subscribers, because this is like an act of love. I think all of us working on the other side of this, Kathy, Ramzi, and myself, we don't get paid for this, but we're very passionate about it. We're passionate about the amazing guests that we've had so far, and the amazing guests that we've yet to come that are already in the pipeline. So we put a lot of hours into it. So we really want to build that audience. And so we can do that if you share it, if you like it, if you comment, and really kind of make us kind of light up the algorithms, because you know how these things work. But enough about self-promotion now. Honestly, the ads are over. let's get started, Ramsey. Let's get into this decoding the why. So, we talk about personal growth. We talk about, how personal growth and that commitment to it really leads to inner transformation. And, when we reflect back, like last week on the show, when we had Roland as our guest, it really brought me back to the early days when I met Roland, when we were training at the Chopra Center. And, we finished that episode saying, wow, if we knew then that we'd, 13, 14 years later be on a podcast talking about, the ancient wisdom teachings of the Bhagavad Gita and Ayurveda and, everything that we learned at Chopra, we probably wouldn't have believed it, but truly life is always kind of dropping little pebbles or breadcrumbs on our path. And as we start to pay attention and notice, we start to kind of come into, I think it's like into coherence within ourselves and into that flow of life. And then suddenly it starts to, there's just like a sequence of, I wouldn't even call them coincidences anymore. I think it's synchronicities. You just can feel it when you're in the flow of it, when things just are becoming more and more effortless. Like as much as this is a passion project for all of us, it really feels like it's in the flow at the same time. It's something we've been called to do. And we just show up every week with that gentle curiosity and that kind of childlike kind of playfulness. And we just see what wants to come out of that. So, Ramsey, what was yours? Kind of, how did your journey start? Like, like it's hard, okay, where it started probably when you were born, but like, just is there one area that you just want to jump in now and say, right, well, I'm feeling into this part?
Yeah. Before I start with my journey, because you said something very interesting. You said it puts little pebbles for us to be mindful of and move along that path. When we were young, we kind of like rushing throughout life, and we tend not to see what is happening around us because we want to get to the finish line. And usually the finish line is what we're looking for. We miss a lot of cues along the way where I would call them spirit that, or guides, or whoever it is that placed them along the path for us to see. So my first thing is that just don't rush. No matter what, you'll get to do everything in life. You won't miss anything. Nothing. So back to me. Back in the 80s, I'll go back to the 80s. I was in Lebanon. There's war, like poverty and everything that you can all imagine, not to mention pain and suffering and all of that. And all of a sudden, I started to imagine myself outside the country. And I don't know where this came from. It happened to me every night. It will happen to me where the imagination, or daydreaming, if you want to call it, but it started to build on previous days more and more and more and more, whereby I would see myself in North America. And I didn't know where exactly it is, but I knew it's got to be North America. So I spoke Arabic, and the second language was French, and the third language was English. And even the French started to die along the way because you don't use them as much. But I didn't really speak any foreign languages properly. And my sentences will always include 3 languages all at once. So it was a melange of stuff. So I had to stop myself for a bit, and I go, okay, well, if I'm going to live in North America, I have to start speaking in English. So I started working on my thinking habits to switch them into English.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard. If your first language, let's say English, in your case, for example, Suzi, and you want to switch into whatever, let's say Chinese, because that's what it's very hard. You might be able to learn the language, but to think, it's kind of like the brain is wired in a way that it's hard to undo. Mm-hmm. But slowly, every night, here it comes, that daydreaming will come in, and it will expand and expand and expand. I didn't know where it was going. like I mentioned before on some other shows, is that we didn't even have a money to pay to buy a gum, yet get on a plane to leave the country. It's like really unimaginable at that time. So slowly things started to manifest on their own.
Wow.
I had friends that came to me and said, "Oh, we have people going to Cyprus. Do you want something?" I go, "What do I want from Cyprus?" "Oh, yeah. Hold on. Could you get me an application for Canada, immigration application for Canada?" And then a week later, I get the application. I complete it, put it aside, wait a month or so, and somebody else comes in and says, "Oh, you want something from Cyprus? We have a friend or a family or somebody that we know." I go, "Oh, I have this file. Here you go." And between 88 and 91, I had my immigration papers done, and I had a ticket and $500 in my pocket. That was it.
Wow.
Oh, sorry. And there was a frying pan that my aunt gave me. It was hilarious, but she still reminds me that of the frying pan, because don't go buy, you don't have money, just take this. It was a funny thing.
Wow.
But yeah.
And that's what got you to North America in a short space of time, by the sounds of it, from that point of where you just started to imagine it or daydream it into being. So like you were in, like, from a brain's kind of wave pattern state, like you were after crossing that alpha bridge, you were in the imaginal realm, and you were just like trying to, I guess, dream your way out of a very challenging scenario, like, which really did manifest. Like, obviously it doesn't manifest without you taking an action, but it manifests because there was something in you, there was a confidence in you that was just like, yeah. It was like with a detachment to the outcome. You were just like, yeah, like next stage, it was way beyond your scope. Like, you couldn't afford bubble gum, and like, how were you going to get a flight to America, or even get in for that matter? But it's really interesting, isn't it? Like the state of mind that takes you on the longest journey. Like,
it does. It's amazing. I'll tell you another thing is that when I went for my interview, when I got the notice from the Canadian embassy, and I remember it clearly, I was as if it was yesterday. We just every now we come out of war, but I was boiling water with twigs and stuff to take a shower, and you get the ashes in them, and I was like, you're a young guy, and you want everything to be perfect, and you're doing that. And then the Pope came out for the Sunday mass, and he said, "Stop taking the Christians out of Lebanon, because it's the only Christian area over there in the Arab world." And I got like so upset. It's like, why are you stopping me from moving forward in life and enjoying it?
Yeah.
So 2 weeks later, the Canadian started slowing down on the immigration process to a point where it came to a halt. Yeah. And I arrived in Cyprus for the interview. At the hotel that I was in, everybody got rejected on that day. It was something, we were in the lobby, around 15 people sitting there talking. They all got rejected. They told me, "Don't waste your money. Go back home." And I go, "I'm here. I'm not gonna reach the door and walk away. No, I'm ringing and I'm walking in."
Good.
And I was the only person at that hotel that got accepted that time.
Wow.
In 2 days. And it was so simple that I went for the medical and the checkups. Within 24 hours, everything was done, and I went back home. It was amazing. Like, to look back at it, I'm in awe when I tell the story every time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, like when I reflect back on, like one of the many, incredible breadcrumbs that landed on my path was, I just picked up this book from a pile here, but I remember, like, I was running my own business, I was interior designer and successful. Ireland was we had what we call the Celtic Tiger. So, you could be printing money at that stage in Ireland. There was so much, growth happening. And I was looking for something that would help me kind of navigate the levels of stress that bringing up your family, running a business, doing all the work. And I was away for a weekend, and this book literally jumped off the shelf like in a bookstore. And it was this book here. I have it, Deepak Chopra, Synchronicities. And I didn't even really know like who he was or, what was Synchronicities. Like I wasn't even looking for a book like that. It was just like that. I just wanted a book. We were staying in a hotel. I wanted a book to read kind of. I started reading this book and I was like, whoa, this is way beyond my pay grade. This is not like something that I understood, because Deepak goes into a lot of detail about quantum physics in this book. And like, I think I failed science, I was a very artistic, creative person. So I dropped science as fast as I could. So I was like, oh, wow, okay, this isn't great. So I kind of, he mentions the second half of the book. He said, don't get caught up in the first half, go to the second half. So there were all these kind of little processes that you could do with these sutras, which were in Sanskrit. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Didn't understand a word of it, honestly. But I started to kind of, I take pieces out, and I had lots of paper. I'd have big pieces of paper and I'd write down the sutra and the statements that related to it. And there was one for each day. And I genuinely did not know what I was doing. And I would get out of bed in the morning and I would stand on the piece of paper and I was just like, look, can't do any harm. Like I didn't really genuinely know what I was doing. And there was no kind of even rationale for it. But what I started to notice was I started to notice things more. I started to become definitely a little bit more aware of things. And I'd see little, coincidences happening and kind of getting very clear about what I was looking for. Clarity started to dawn on me, and when I got to the end of the book, and like I still didn't understand the quantum physics part of it at the beginning, the explanation for how it works, I didn't get it at all. But I set an intention. I was like, well, look, I'd love to meet this guy. I'd love to know now, is he the real deal? And I remember just even laughing at that idea when it crossed through my mind. I was like, are you seriously saying this? And I was like, sure, look, a bit like you on the flight, I don't even know where this guy lives or works out of. Like, I didn't know anything about it. But what's remarkable is that within a very short space of time, I end up in California, in Los Angeles, and I had the opportunity to go down to Carlsbad, to the Chopra Center. Almost like on a reconnaissance mission, is what it felt like to me. So that was really early on. Like, I think that was about 2010. And I saw the Chopra Center and I stayed there and, had a whole lovely experience there with, buying their teas and their meditation books and all sorts of, like, I saw all the stuff that went with it, and like Deepak wasn't there, it was just like there was no big event on or anything. But it kind of put me at ease about it. The skeptic in me was starting to feel more at ease, and starting to lean into the possibilities more. And I bought lots more of his books, and I started to see the pattern was like everything seemed to come down to meditation, Ayurveda, and yoga. Like it was always the same kind of three big tools that he was referring to. So I think that's where that took me at that point. Skip forward another year, and when I got there, I did meet him. I did bump into him the second morning when I was about to run for the hills and leave. I met him, and there was something like, there's that moment when, the intention or the dream or the imagination and the event kind of catch up on each other, and there's nowhere to run or hide. It's really, you're very present in that moment, and you're like, wow, okay, who would have ever thought that I'd be standing here chatting to this dude, or like that you'd be flying to, getting your visa to go and live in Canada, so irrespective of what the thing is, like you said, life it won't pass you by if it's for you. That's what we say over here. We say, what's for you won't pass you, and I think these practices are what really kind of, I think, accelerated things for me. So yeah,
those two experiences brings in another question. So should a why be looked for, or should we meditate on it? Should we run after it or allow it to come?
I think sometimes the why changes, honestly. I think deep down at that stage, as much as maybe your why was get me out of the war zone, my why was like my life felt like a war zone because I was very busy all the time. There was a lot happening, and I was kind of feeding this kind of empty pit. Like it was like the more clients you got, the more money you got, the more stuff you could buy, the more clients you got, the more money you got, the more stuff you could buy. And it just was kind of like this loop. And I think at some point I sat down. I remember sitting on the beach and I was like, there has to be more to life than this, than feeding this material monster. And I was like, what is it? And nobody else around me was even the least bit interested. Honestly, it was just like, did you get the wine? Are you, where are we going next? Like, have you planned your holiday? What car have you got? It was always about kind of what you could afford or what you were, attaining kind of materially, which is okay to a certain extent, but it's not. What I realized those days when I was on my own at the beach was I was really missing kind of really deeper fulfillment. I felt the interior design business was like creating smoke and mirrors. I always felt like I was creating a diversion, and I was good at it. I'm very visual and I could create things, and things could happen quite easily, which were some of the skills, but there was just something really missing. And so I think what I was seeking, I thought was outside of me, so I think that's why the why does change, like you're asking questions and you're trying to figure something out. But really, like you said, it's when you stop and you get kind of quiet and still, that's the involution part. The information starts to come to you. So did you have something like that as well, Ramsey? Did you have a sort of a pause or a stop and stopped you in the tracks? Like,
one thing is I have a monkey or a squirrel brain, which it doesn't stop. It's just like, oh, shiny object to the right, shiny object to the left. And it helps a lot when you're in a business environment because you keep an eye on everything, making sure. I used to work as a director of finance for a multinational company, so I'm always on the run, trying to make sure the one on the left and the one on the right, they all match, and doing this and doing that. But for that, you need to be present to what is happening and making sure that you jump into different places. But when you're looking at your own sanity, I don't like the word sanity because we live in an insane world. So if you're looking for your sanity, you really need to have a control over where your mind goes. And because my life is on the run and my mind is on the run, I just can't sit and quiet down.
Yeah.
It was very, very hard. I tried everything. I tried listening to music. I got aggravated. I listened to YouTube meditation stuff, guided, non-guided. It just doesn't work. And I found
doesn't work for you. I'll just put that caveat in there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't working for me.
Okay. Yeah.
It works for a lot of people, but it wasn't working for me. And then what I found is that my quiet time is when I go for a walk in nature. That's my quiet time. That's my actual meditation. If you want to call it the meditation, this is it for me. It's not sitting on a chair or on the bed or wherever it is. Mine is being in nature, because one thing about me is that when I'm walking, I'm listening to a bird, I'm listening to a leaf falling down, the sound on the ground, the bounciness, and I'm all in awe of how things are, working on their own without my control, because everything has to be under my control, otherwise it falls apart. But this was one space where it doesn't matter what I do or what I say, it's just useless, just be. And that's where I found that deeper connection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So my meditation, or so-called connection, is through walking in nature.
Okay. So it
And
sounds to me like it was very grounding practice for you. Like it was a complete antidote to what must have been quite a stressful environment, being, director of finance or whatever the role you were playing was.
yeah,
Like, so like for me, I didn't believe I could meditate for start, because I was just like, oh, that's a different type of person. That's a person who's kind of disciplined and quiet and naturally kind of, drawn to being quiet. I was none of those things. So I didn't kind of, I had all sorts of kind of beliefs around that. Like, but so I was buying books and I'd read it and I'd be like, I just never for a second thought it could be me. And a bit like you, I was used to being kind of in control and directing things, and but something happened to us that just stopped me in my tracks. It got my full attention. I don't know if you've ever had one of those moments where suddenly it's like we were out in a boat, the boom came across, I'm at the tiller, my husband's standing on the deck, and the boom hits him right on the head, almost knocks him off the boat, but he managed to swing back in and land on the deck. And I was like, oh my God, because I really wasn't paying attention. I was so controlling, and I was so, I think, internally out of control. Like, I just didn't like that the weather was telling us we couldn't go sailing that day because it was too windy. And, that it would have been safer to stay in the harbor, but I was like, push, 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 nearly killed my husband. And it just got my full attention. It's like life flashed before me, like, and we dropped the sails and my son was helping. We got the boat back in and brought my husband to the hospital. Like he suffered a real major concussion, but he was fine. Like, but the doctors were like, you've got to lie down on the grass. You've just got to stay still now and just, help your recover. So that's what happened. I think nature for me, like, I remember going home and like, we had the holidays booked anyway, so we didn't leave, we didn't go anywhere, but I just lay outside in the grass. And I think that was, like, from what I know now, that was really grounding. And that was the grounding that I needed, a bit like what you were saying about being in nature. But being in the grass kind of calmed my mind down. It settled me. My husband was settling, obviously he had to by force. And basically I was really searching deep inside. I was like, what? I can't go on like this. I'm going to kill somebody or myself. Like, I'm like a runaway train. I'm like a car freewheeling down the hill with no brakes, like, and I just thought something's got to change. And I realized, I think, that it was me. It wasn't his fault or the weather's fault or any, it was me. I was totally like, out of control. And I remember going into the office because the office was at the back of our house. And a few weeks before, I think I had been looking at the Chopra website because I'd already visited there. And in my fantasy world, I was like, God, imagine if you worked in that environment, if that was your day to day, living, breathing, speaking, the teachings. I was like, my God, that would be so cool. And so I used to go on the Chopra website and I used to like almost fantasize. I used to be like, oh my God, I would just so love 7 days of, Ayurvedic food and, the way they describe it so beautifully. And I was like, oh, imagine just having that experience. Like, and so I went into my office and I was looking at it because I think I got a newsletter or something. And I was just kind of, wow. And I could feel, I said, wow, there's a part of me wouldn't give myself permission to sign up for something like that. And it wasn't that I was short of the money, maybe a little short on the time, but I could have gouged out the time. But there was a total like, nope, that's not for you. There's a part of my mind that was like, who do you even think you are looking at that? And then I saw a thing that said, find a teacher near you. So I had a quick look and I saw, oh, wow, there's a teacher actually in Dublin. And I was like, oh, I could do that. And I even felt like a sort of impious thought, who do you think you are? Like signing up to. So I signed up for a program with a teacher in Dublin to do Ayurveda Perfect Health and the meditation program that is offered through Chopra. And I was like, look, at least I'll find out a bit more about it. Like, and then there was something that said, oh, if you want to win free tickets or something, there was a free offer, write a little article on synchronicity. And that was the book, obviously, that I'd been reading, Synchrodestiny. So I wrote this little article about, like, you know, how life would really change if we all listened to Synchrodestiny and followed the breadcrumbs in our path. And it was just a simple little article. Thought nothing of it. I don't even know where I submitted the article to, you know. But let me just tell you, that was August. And in September, when I went to Dublin to do the training with the teacher, I really felt from that moment that I got that mantra that something had just clicked within me. It was like a switch. It was like, wow, okay, I'm paying attention again, you know, and at least nobody's got hurt this time. You know, it's just within myself. And I still felt a bit like an imposter, if I'm honest. I was a bit like, oh my God, who do I think I am? Like, I'm going to be going back to work on Monday. Like, what? And I went out for lunch in Dublin, didn't know anybody else on the program, went into a lovely health food shop. I'd never really gone into them before. I used to be more like in the wine shop. And I was like, okay, I'll, you know, have the veggie lunch. And, you know, I was buying herbal tea and incense and all the little accoutrement that I believed in. And there was a free magazine called Positive Life. And I was like, oh, I'll take that. So I went and sat in a cafe with my stuff and my magazine, and I ordered a coffee, and I opened the magazine, and I'm not joking, I nearly fell off the chair, because there in the magazine, I think I still have it in a file somewhere, it said Synchrodestiny by Suzi von Menzenkampf. I was like, what? Wow. I did not know A, that article was for a printed magazine. I thought it was an online thing. And B, I didn't even know what had happened to it. Like, and it was in print, and there was my name. And I just shut the magazine. I went red. I was embarrassed. I was like, oh, Jesus, if anybody reads this, they'll think I'm crazy. Like, who, like, this is like a split personality. This is like somebody else's article, you know? And so that was another really crucial moment for me, where I was like, wow, you know, talk about it, write about it, start practicing it. And by gosh, it just starts to, you know, unfold in your own natural evolution. Like,
so it's a message from you to you that you didn't know that you sent that out to yourself.
Which I wrote in August, and this is middle of September. And I was like, okay, wow. And I was meditating. So I got the mantra, I'm meditating away. You know, I was still a bit embarrassed about doing it after I learned how to do it properly. So I was nearly kind of like hiding under the bed doing it. I was nearly in the closet. Like, I didn't want anyone to see me. I was a bit embarrassed. And I would do it before I would go to work. And, you know, one day, it was really interesting. I was in my office. I was working away on my computer, and I realized, where's my phone? And I had left it in the other part of the house. So I went back up to the house to pick up the phone. And prior to that, right, when I was doing the meditation, this is an important part of the story, I kept seeing the letters SOS. Like, they were like, it was like a sign floating past me when I was sitting there, SOS, SOS. And I was like, really? SOS? And I was like, you know, the lifeboats here, it's like save our souls, like, you know, SOS kind of, you know, that's what I was thinking about. And I was like, I don't know what this SOS is. And I was a bit frustrated because it was really interrupting my meditation, this whole SOS thing. So I opened my eyes and I said, listen, if you're trying to get a sign to me, whoever you are, if there even is something out there, you're going to have to come down with a neon sign right in front of me. And like, literally, like, I don't know, gremlins are going to have to appear in the sitting room. You know, I joked, like, and so I'm down in the office, realize my phone is missing, come back up to get it. It's vibrating. I didn't even know it could do that. I'm like, oh, it vibrates. And I answered, and somebody close to me, a friend, family member, said, you know, that course you were talking about at Chopra that you really want to do, that you won't give yourself permission to do. And I said, yeah. She said, what's it called again? And I was like, oh, Seduction of Spirit. And then I was like, oh my God, that's the SOS, Seduction of Spirit. And she said, well, you really helped me out, and I want to give you a gift. I'm going to give you a gift of that. And I nearly keeled over, honestly. Like, I was just in tears, and she didn't know what was going on because I didn't tell her what happened earlier. And I said, I'll call you back. Like, I couldn't. And she said, I have to go. I have a client now. So she couldn't talk. We weren't talking about it. She just said, you're going, I'm paying. And I nearly, like, it took me a few days to actually recover from that breadcrumb. That was like the loaf of bread or the baguette coming and just whacking you on the head, actually, So again, I'm sure you had similar. I'm dying to hear your version.
Well, let's just, first of all, let me squeeze in something for now. By the way, I had an interview with the psychic guys. It's called what do you call it? Mediumship and Tea with Ramzi. So please do check it out. It's an interview on the psychic guys. I put the link in the chat.
Good.
Also, I think it's this link too, but in the chat you'll find it there. So join me on the psychic guys. I love that. These things just do happen. And I love the way I want to say spirit, because to me it is a spirit that guides us through it. And so here's, I want to pull a story out of a hat, but I'll talk about this one. Okay, this is very, 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 very recent. Exactly 1 year ago, I was handed a pink slip, and my whole life kind of like collapsed, collapsed. And then it took a while to just get over the control part of it, because my brain wants to control everything, and now it's out of control. So I lost myself, started to look, to understand what my why is, and I couldn't find my why. I traveled everywhere just to basically release the amount of stress that I accumulated over 26 years period.
Wow. Yeah.
And a high demanding job. It really took a toll. And the funny part is that you don't realize that you're in a rat race. You have no idea until you're out. And the day you're out, it just, everything collapses. So moving forward in time, I said, okay, I'm going to make a herbal tea. That is the best thing. I didn't think about it. It just came. It hit me on the head. This is it, herbal tea. So I started working on a formula to figure out what I need to do, how to put it, talking to people, figuring things out. And it still wasn't the right thing, but I know it is the right thing, because I didn't say this is it. It came to me. It came to me and like, oh, here it is. I was at a supermarket and it said, this is it. This is the tea. Change the formula. This is the right thing. And it's like, it really.
Now, can I just back you up?
Yeah.
Like, can we break that moment down? Because I think that's what the listeners really need to understand, kind of what a massive sort of like getting hit on the head with the baguette for me. Like, you're in the supermarket, you have a sense you're looking for a tea, you're not quite sure, you're searching for something. You'll know when you get it, I guess.
What I was looking for is originally, because I thought this is my why. My why is to import into Canada supplements, herbal supplements, which are everywhere. Now you can go anywhere. Even before, they used to be in specialty stores. Now they are in supermarkets. They're everywhere. You can find them everywhere. Even with the market being saturated, and from a business sense, it did not make sense to go that route, I was still going that route. And while I came to Lima to look for those supplements, and while I was looking in the supermarket, because I went to tons of stores trying to see what they have, and my eye like literally landed on this herbal tea that they have in Lima, and I go, oh, it was just like, and literally an aha moment is like, what you're looking for is right in front of you.
Yeah.
Stop looking.
Cool.
It's just like, literally time stops.
Nice.
At that point, it stops, and you can't say no to it because there were no words to say that this should be it. You know, it's a
feeling.
It's a deep, yeah, it's a really deep feeling of knowing that this is it.
Yeah.
So I pull it out of a shelf. I make the tea. I hate it because it has sugar and some other stuff, and it tastes like grass. I don't like that. But let me try to make something else of my own. And then when I tasted my own tea, which is a variation of what is usually drank in Peru, you know.
Is it like a green tea? Like, is it?
Oh, sorry,
is
my
it a black
apologies.
tea? Is it like what? Is it a fruit tea?
I should have went in detail on the tea, but I was too busy like visualizing what happened to me on that day. It's called emoliente, and emoliente is a bunch of herbs that I join together. For example, mint, chamomile, lemongrass, barley, and some other stuff, all mixed together, sold in a plastic bag. If that was in North America, nobody would touch it because of the way it's presented. But this is a common thing over here. And when I drank it, it just I didn't like it. Then I looked at the supermarkets and I found them in bottles. I tried to drink that. It's sweetened. It doesn't have any health benefit to it. And that's when I started to say, okay, well, if I remove the mint because it tastes grassy, and I add another type of mint, maybe spearmint or something else, what would happen? And I started experimenting. But the experiment didn't take a week or two. Literally, it took 3 tries.
Wow.
And I completely transformed it. I did not transform it because I didn't do anything, to be honest with you. It was done through me, and that's where I find if you are, and I don't want to be say the word aligned, but if you are silent to actually not criticize or question whatever is being done through you, you get to the finish line really quickly.
Yeah, without resistance.
Really,
yeah,
zero resistance. So going back and forth, and I go, okay, this is it. And then a friend of mine in Montreal, she was talking to me, and she goes, "Oh, Ramzi, you know what? Since you went over there, maybe you know somebody to do with chocolate and stuff like that." And I go, "Oh my God, chocolate! This is an interesting thing." So the tea turned into tea and chocolate, and a tea and chocolate and coffee. And I'm still building a brand and building a more healthy product to be sold. Like, for example, yesterday I was building some kind of a chocolate with jam in it, and because I love cooking, and over the years, you learn certain techniques here and there, and I go, oh, I saw this on one of the Michelin chefs. They were doing it to design a beautiful plate, but if I use that design and I put it inside the chocolate, what would happen? 100% cocoa, which you really do not want to taste because it's really bitter, along with fruit filling. It's not jam. Jam has like almost equal part of sugar in it.
Yeah.
It's 2 tablespoons of sugar in like half a kilo of fruit. Brought me to an amazing combination of bitter and sweetness, but the sweetness is actually from the fruit, not from the sugar.
Yeah, natural.
That made it all natural, and I couldn't stop eating it last night to a point where I go, my God, I should stop now and make it a bit more bitter so that people don't overeat. But you can't overeat. It's 100% natural, organic cocoa, no sugar in it, and so on and so forth. It just all that to say is that things just happen when you're in that slow-mo state, and especially, and I'm talking to my fellow North American, along to with European are less than North American. North American, we're bloody crazy. It's like go 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 go. But if you just stop a bit, and to what feels good for you in terms of silencing yourself and reconnecting to your body.
Yeah.
In your case, it was meditation. In my case, it's a meditation through walking in nature, and I'm sure there are tons of others that can come up. Do it. If that makes you feel connected to yourself, to everything around you, just do it.
I'm gonna have to show you that there's a comment in the chat there.
I can't wait to try that.
They're already queuing up to try the chocolate. What's interesting is that overlap of the flavors. Like in Ayurveda, we talk about the 6 tastes, and when we balance all 6 tastes, it feels we experience satiety in our palate. Like our palate has, this incredible capacity for bitter, sweet, astringent, pungent, salty, sour. And in Ayurveda, what we say is like when you get all 6 tastes in over the course of the day, you feel like much more kind of satisfied. You wouldn't be reaching for the box of chocolates. The one would really work for you. Like, so it feels to me like the products could end up becoming the kind of meal. Like you could have the tea as a ritual after your meal with the one chocolate and really ritualize that treat. Like everybody needs a treat at the end of the day or sometimes at the end of a meal, and there's something about when we give ourselves permission to receive a treat. There's that receptivity of giving something back to yourself, as much as meditation is giving yourself a treat of being silent and connecting in. Sometimes the treat might just come through the flavors of life. And I'm just wondering, when you describe the herbs that you talked about in the tea and then the flavors in the chocolate, it feels to me like the combination would probably entail all 6 tastes, and the ritual in itself would be very satisfying. Like it would really bring coherence and balance in to your palate, probably for your digestion as well. And just like as those antidotes to stress, like for people, who may be stopping and doing meditation as a bridge too far when you're, juggling lots and different things, from running a business to raising kids, taking care of people, taking care of yourself. These rituals, I think, are what we need to start to value in our lives. Those moments, like I was out walking the hills in Kerry, the county next to me, on Sunday. And like one of the women I was walking with was describing her morning, and like she said to me, I could never meditate, Suzi. Geez, you could never stop my mind. And she gave me all the reasons why meditation wouldn't work. And I said, look, I'm not trying to. So, there's no pressure. She said, and I said, so, but what do you do? Like, what is your kind of moment? And she said, well, I get up really early. I love my garden and I stand there. I think she lights a cigarette and she makes a cup of coffee, but I said, like, you're 50% there with the garden and taking the time. If you could just change it from the coffee and the cigarette to maybe, one of these quality consciously made chocolates and a herbal tea, like the shift would be profound, actually. So that's why I'm looking at a project actually at the moment where it's food as medicine, and just finding balance through the 6 tastes. So I think that's something. It's because we were both talking about that. So I just so that we move on. Where are we doing on the time? Oh, we have a bit more time. And it's lovely to see that we have Edie has been on the call, and Catherine's been on the call. I keep saying on the call, on the show. Walking in nature is mindful meditation for her. There you go. And Edie was, I think she was saying that she was in Maine, just coming back from her swim. So, you know, like everybody knows what their sort of place or, you know, go to release the stress or to kind of manage the stress. In relation to your own life, I have a few things here. Was there a shift when you went from trying to fix yourself to really honoring the process that you were in? We talked about it earlier.
Yeah. This is an awesome question because we're bombarded with all these things about fixing ourselves, becoming better, and especially when you're in the business world, you always strive to become better, to become a better leader, understanding your. But the reality is, we're already there. We're already there. We really don't need to shame ourselves or force ourselves to become something that we're not.
Yeah.
You know, you can read a book about self-help. You can read a book about how to manage people. And that's okay. And you can take whatever that resonates with you in order to align yourself with yourself. But to change it, I find that not being honest with your true self.
Like
You're
I
putting
think,
on a persona. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, like just when I listen to you say the words like self-help, like you see it in a bookshop, the self-help section, like you're going to run a mile from it. You know what I mean? I noticed when I studied some healing modalities, people were coming in and they're like, I don't need any healing. I'm grand, you know, and technically they were grand, like they were functioning, you know, but so I think the vocabulary around these things has to kind of change a little bit from self-help, healing, you know, because it's the implication is that you're broken or you're not abnormal or you're not fitting in with everybody else or whatever, or they're doing way better than you are. When really in reality is you're functioning, you're probably functioning on a very high level if you're running a company and you're, you know, director of a team and, you know, doing what you're doing and then living your life at the same time, like, you know, like highly functioning people, I guess. But I suppose when I look at it now, what I learned through my own journey of study through kind of mindfulness and meditation was it was about self-care. It was about really taking care of myself first, putting my mask on first. You know, I can't afford to go out in a boat now and kill my husband with the boom hitting him on the head. You know, I can't afford to lose one of my children in the supermarket or, you know, roll over the dog, you know, when I'm backing in the car or something like that. You know, and that's what happens when you're really stressed and you're kind of getting a bit out of whack. But like I learned, put your mask on and take care of yourself first. And then when you really figure out how to do that, and whether it's sitting with a tea and a chocolate or sitting in a meditation or whatever you're doing, you're putting that mask on. And what comes out of that self-care practice is compassion. And you develop this quality, which I certainly didn't even know about in its truest sense till I started self-compassion, you know, being kind to myself, not shaming myself, not judging myself. And I think the shift happens when you like the honor the process is like that you're in a process. You're in the sort of you're evolving, you're in the involution to the evolution is happening. It's an inside job. You're learning to take good care of yourself, to parent, maybe reparent yourself, reinvent yourself, whatever that might look like. Maybe you're perfectly fine as you are, but you're making, you know, paying attention to what you're putting into your body, maybe how you're sleeping, how you relate to other people. For you, was it more about self-acceptance? Like obviously you had a big dramatic change from being in your job to then being the man looking around Lima for tea, you know. Was your identity much caught up much with the role you played? Like was it easy to
Well, I think I was having conflicts between who I am
Mm-hmm.
and the role that I was playing at work.
Yeah.
And the conflict was really strong. And it was affecting me on a physical level too, not only on the spiritual, but on the physical level too. And I had to balance it out somehow, but I was never kind to myself. Because, I have to achieve certain targets. And if they're not achieved, it's on me.
Okay.
Although I don't control 4 or 5 companies and what they do and stuff like that, but I still have to work with all of them in order to achieve my goal. And sometimes my goals were not realistic per se.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I had to achieve them. This is how corporations work. So for someone who just sprouted out of has sprouted into a spiritual realm whereby I mattered, that's where the conflict started to kick in. But with time, I had a bit of a balance. And when it ended, that's when I saw my growth expand. Because it was kind of a preparation for me to just explode on this day, which is February 26, 2024.
Back up, explode on the day. That sounds now like you just I don't know. I'm seeing blood and guts everywhere.
When you're cocooned with the environment that you're in, and the environment let loose, you just explode and you become you flower into yourself.
Nice.
That's a better term.
Yeah. So there was a feeling, I suppose it was like really kind of getting free of that role and the responsibility that came with it as well, I suppose. Yeah. And entering that place of creativity where you could travel and explore and stop and listen, tune in. And like I listened to part of the podcast of you on the Psychic Guys with Dave. And it really is lovely. Like, when he starts off talking about like, so how did you get from mediumship to tea? Because, it's like everybody's journey is so individual.
Yes. Yeah. And I tell all my I tell all the viewers here or whichever platform you're listening on, it will happen. Okay, it will happen to every one of us. As long as we do not put a carrot in front of us. I don't want to be that someone. That someone becomes me when I'm ready for it. And there's a huge difference because when you're running for something, it's very exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember, during the war and all of that, all I wanted to do was to travel the world. It is one of my inner things, like my happiness comes from traveling. But I could barely get out of my front house, And I ended up in a job where it took me around the globe, and I never noticed it because I was so into the work. I never noticed or appreciated.
Yes.
Till 2 years ago when I stopped and I said, oh my God, I've always wanted a butler, but I went to hotels where I had butlers in India and in China, and they run after you and let me iron your shirt and do this. And I go, okay, fine, you can iron my shirt, but don't make my tea. I'll make my own, And it happens. Just be mindful of where you are and enjoy where you are at that point in time, because that is where everything lies. It's at that point in time being engaged and mindful with what you're doing. Happiness, basically.
You mean in the present moment, really? It's
in
like
the present moment,
in right now, in the here and now, and being okay with being in a process. And I was talking to somebody earlier, and we were saying that like life, actually, when it's in balance, it's a beautiful, healthy curve of like soft peaks and soft troughs, and it's a dynamic exchange between kind of motion and in movement to kind of being in stillness and silent and but it's from a very balanced place, as opposed to, you know, high peaks and high drops. Like, you know what I mean? So it's really that middle path is definitely the way. I've just realized our hour is up, and I never told everybody what the word was. So if you want to join us at Tea with the Ancestors, which is a lot of fun, we did something similar last year, and it's on the 25th of April at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, and 5 UK and Ireland. Please do join us. The price on the website in 12D is €50. But if you put into the coupon code the word subscribed with a D at the end, you will get €6 off, and you will get it for the discounted price of 44. So we'd love you to really please, we ask you all to subscribe to either the YouTube channel or any of the other 8 platforms that we're streaming, putting this live stream out on. So there's 8 podcast platforms that we're connected to. So you can subscribe to any of those, or to YouTube. But really, or even to our website, the more kind of traction we get, the more engaged we are, and the more inclined to go into season 3 at the end of the, you know, when we get to the fall, we probably will do. But it's been a joy. I really enjoyed chatting to you today, Ramzi. I love when we're just kind of shooting the breeze. And
I know, same here. And I can't believe we passed the hour and we didn't even cover what we wanted to talk about.
I know. Well, we covered some of it. We didn't totally miss the mark. We did get some of it, but you know what? It's a process. It's a journey, and it's a chat. Thank you so much, and thanks to everybody for listening and taking part. And come back next week. My gosh, we have a really cool guest coming next week. Keep an eye out, and we'll post her link on Sunday night. Okay.
Thank you all. Have a pleasant evening or afternoon wherever you are. Till next week.